This podcast is Intel enhanced. To see pictures, articles and links of what's being discussed, download the Intel app.
Hello, welcome to the Big Scuba Show.
Alright, so hello, my name is Aoibheann. I'm a PhD MI. I'm working in environmental education and outreach in Ireland. And I'm here with Gemma and Ian on the Big Scuba podcast to talk about life as a dive instructor, the importance of responsible diving, environmental education, and just all wonderful dive-related things.
Welcome back to the Big Scuba podcast. We are your hosts, Gemma and Ian. Before we get cracking with today's episode, we just want to make sure you have hit that follow button or the subscribe button, depending on what platform you are listening on. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you enjoy what you're going to hear today, we would really appreciate it if you can leave a review and a 5-star rating. So now that's out of the way, we just want to say welcome and thank you for all tuning in. And now it's time to dive into today's episode.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Big Scuba podcast. My name's Ian, I'm one of your co-hosts, and the other co-host who's here with me is...
Gemma. Hello everyone.
So anyway, you all know what we're all about by now. We're going to be 115 episodes into this.
Well, so there might be somebody new listening.
Well, for those who are new, welcome. And we talk about diving, scuba diving, free diving, having fun on the water.
Yeah, so it could be paddleboarding, kayaking, swimming.
Whatever you like. But we particularly like to get guests on who have done fun things, or they particularly just love getting in the water, diving, having fun, exploring. They've usually done some pretty exciting things.
They have a positive message about the marine world and ocean conservation.
We like positivity, and on that note, we have got a great guest for you for this week. We have got PhD instructor, author as well.
Yes, co-author.
Yeah. Aoibheann Gillespie-Mules. I hope I've got Aoibheann's
Yes,
name.
yeah, and we got a recommendation that we should contact her from a guy on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so who's joined us on LinkedIn? If you're not joined us yet on LinkedIn, why not? Come on, get on board. We share stuff on LinkedIn as well. I know it's a bit business-like.
Well, no, but there's lots of good stuff on there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. So all part of the platforms beyond. Coming up in this episode, we've got for you this week, we talk a bit about what we've been up to. Gem's been in the water with the Coast Guard. We're going to have a bit of a serious chat because there was a court case that came about. It took a long time to get there, but it's that ended recently with sadly a death in the diving world. But we're going to touch on that. We're also going to talk about there's a great scuba show in Florida,
Long Beach. Yes.
Yeah, talk about that. And Paddy have joined forces with Sea Legacy as well, and there's a petition for you all to get behind and sign up to.
Yes, yeah.
And we'll tell you where to go to for that. But before we get into that, do you want to talk about Coast Guard? What's been happening on the Coast Guard on the Suffolk coast?
Well, there's been a few incidents, but we have training every Monday night as a team, and we went out on a training exercise to our local, it's called Alton Broad, so it's a big lake, kind of, big expanse of water, and I ended up being put in a dry suit. Rescuing a casualty.
Well, you used a dry suit.
Yes, yeah, and that was, I don't know.
This one's bright yellow.
Red.
Oh, red. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So that was about 7 in the evening. So, but it wasn't too much of a shock getting in the water. It was not that cold. So, and I rescued.
You are a diver.
Yes. So I rescued one of our colleagues, Matt, who was floating about. And then I got back in the water, and the guys practiced some line throwing at us. Yeah. So it was really good, and it obviously put everything into practice that we've learned. So rather than the theory,
well, you've got some more practice coming up next month, because you've got your PhD rescue course with Polly at Crystal Sea Scuba, and I'm going to be one of the illustrious dive masters.
I'm looking forward to
rescue
that.
as well. And
you need rescuing.
Well, it will be. I'm it's all part of it.
Have I got to hump you out of the water?
Well, you might have to. When I did my rescue, I had to lift one of the team out of the water, and he weighed 18 stone. He's 6'4".
I don't really relish lifting you.
Let's just say his legs were dragging on the floor but I managed to haul him out just, honestly. So but all part of the fun. But you will cover some of the things you'll do on the rescue course. That won't be new to you. That'll be stuff that you've already covered, and probably even more detail in the Coast Guard.
Yes, and the first aid side of things, that's probably more extensive that I've done with the Coast Guard than just. Yeah, so that's been exciting stuff. So not been on call an awful lot. It's been busy at work, but hopefully next week we'll be back to it.
After Easter, the demand for fish has been busy this week.
It has, yes.
I've been crossfitting as usual this week. It's the European Championships Tech. So yesterday we did the Witten WOD. Look that one up. That's an absolute nightmare. Lots of running involved in that one, but I did my 22.2, which is the second league, and I'm currently sitting in 36th position in men's novice.
It's very good.
Not bad, is it?
No, we've done our 5k, our Sunday fun run today, haven't we? So
I'm pretty pleased with that, although there's a lot of scores still to go in, so I'm probably going to go further down the list.
Well, and there's another WOD yet you've got to do, isn't there?
Yeah, but I'm pretty pleased with that on a Sunday morning.
Very good.
Sitting in 36th position in the European Championships. Not bad for a bit of a go. Okay, well, let's talk about this court case. So there's a couple of some really good articles. We'll put some links this, and before we get into that, I want to say, our thoughts about of the person and his name for this discussion. I don't think we need to name, but our thoughts are with him and his family, who sadly passed away in this incident. And and that's what we have to bear in mind through all of this. But I think something which has happened, we need to bring up. And we wouldn't be a diving podcast if we don't talk about it.
No.
So this happened 6 years ago. It happened at Stony Cove. It's a site that we've dived many times now, and people dive all the time. And one Sunday, a dive happened, and they went to the
hydrobox. So it's 35 metres.
Yeah, and it was a dive that they'd been planning for quite a while, and they'd done their training for, and it's a tricky thing. I've been on dives where I've seen my instructor. I'm the dive master. I've seen my instructor calm someone down who's having been in complete panic, and it's not nice to see.
No, but it happens.
It does happen.
You've got to be prepared.
It can happen really, really quickly, and we have to remember that with all these things, there's always risks. When we get in the water, there are risks, and the instructor from Northampton who was involved in this. Had a dive master, and in my view, going by everything I've read,
did everything right.
You've done everything right, and if you go down to these depths, and I've done this dive a few times now, been down to the hydrobox and been to the roof of the hydrobox. I did my deep there, my deep spec there a few years ago, and I spent numerous dives working up to that deep, and I think I got to about 36 meters one side of it. It's not pleasant. It's very dark down there. It's cold.
Doesn't sound nice.
Even through the summer, it'll be dark, and it'll be about 5 degrees. 5 or 6 degrees. It's not all that great, but there's not many places in the UK where you can dive, and now with NDAC out of the way. For most of us,
getting that depth, isn't it?
That's probably the one and only place inland where you can go for that sort of depth if you want to do any training. Is a dive that's been carried out many times. The bit I found worried me the more while this court case was going on and as details were being released was that the prosecution of the case didn't really understand the idea of a safety stop, and it was almost implying that this, an instructor maintaining and having the safety stop was at fault. That was my understanding. And there's good reasons why we use a safety stop.
Yeah, in normal situations, but this was slightly different, wasn't it? The guy was...
Yeah, and there's things that we need to bear in mind, and I think when there's issues that was picked up in the court case where the bereaved had not been clear on his medical form about a pre-existing condition, which may have contributed to his reaction and behaviour in the water.
Yeah, and I think when they did the post-mortem, they couldn't tell, could they?
No.
So unfortunately.
No. Also, there's a strong belief as well that drugs were involved.
Yes.
That had been consumed beforehand, and on that point, any medical condition, if you haven't been clear on your diving medical, you've got to really at least speak to your instructor, especially if you're going deep, particularly if you're going deep, to bring that up. Even if you're any of these drugs, it's very rare have been tested at any depth.
Yeah, you don't know how they're going to change in your system.
The belief is that any drugs that you do take, and I'm talking prescribed drugs, I'm not talking about recreational drugs, but the effect will be the same, that any drugs that you take or alcohol will increase, with pressure.
With the effect of, pressure.
Yeah. And one of the things we've always said is that the last thing you want to be is underwater wishing you was above the water.
Mm-hmm.
You're always better being above the water wishing you was under.
Yeah, exactly.
Than the other way around, and we don't know what happened. The only people who do know for certain were the people who were involved, and our opinion don't really count for anything, and I'm not going to add an opinion. I just think if you haven't seen or heard about this court case,
have a read.
Then have a read. There's a really good article written by Steve Weinman for Dive.net. It's come out recently, and he has a very good article where he explains about what's actually happened.
Yeah, it's quite sobering as well.
There's no opinion, or no one's making any judgment.
Yeah, it's facts.
It covers the facts. But for the diving point of view, there's two things come from it. Is one, I think there is risks with diving, yes, and part of our training is all about dealing with them risks.
Yeah, it's knowledge and minimising risks, isn't it?
But also being upfront, being open,
honest,
and telling and having that relationship with your instructor to say, I've got hay fever or something like this. Making sure you tell them, because then they know, and then you can all make this informed decision on whether you then carry on with the dive.
Well, anybody can call the dive, can't they?
Yeah. Any, as Christina has told us, and that is right. So being totally upfront and honest and clear on the diving medical, with your health, because your health can change, from one year to the next.
You can have good days and bad days as well.
Yeah. And also, and think about, if you are going diving, what are you doing the night before? Are you exercising hard? Are you drinking? Are you having a really heavy meal? Are you, smoking something and things like that? You just got to remember that's going to be in your system. How's that going to be if you're having the big dive? So just bear that in mind, okay? And the other thing that will come out of this, and again we'll share the details of where you can find out about this. So in the article, Steve talks about what an IPO is. For those who don't know, that is Immersion Pulmonary Edema, because they believe this is one of the contributing effects to what happened. And this is quite a new thing. It's only been discovered over these last few years, and it can affect anyone who's swimming, diving, free diving, scuba diving,
Snorkeling.
Snorkeling. You know, if you're getting in the water, it's all about, you still, even if you're on the surface, you've still got a pressure around you. And you could potentially have what's the word? You won't know about it until it happens. But basically, we're through pressure being on your system, blood goes actually into your lungs.
Yeah, and it can be a delayed effect as well.
It can be, and it can be something that can build up over a matter of time. And they've found it particularly with people who've got a long history of really deep dives, because obviously there's more pressure and things. And it's a really good article. It's really worth understanding. Don't let that put you off, because, you know, as we said, there's always risks for everything. It's risk getting in your car.
Yeah, it's recognising it, though,
but
isn't it?
The more important thing is knowing what to do. Once you've known what to recognise, two, what do you then do about it? So there's a really, in part of the article, it explains about a lady who was in warm water, in a wetsuit, shallow dive, and she had a lovely dive, came up, suddenly found that she was finding it very hard to breathe. Yeah. She was abroad. They thought she got bend. She didn't think that was
decompression.
Yeah. She thought of something else. She actually heard about this IPO and thought, I think, and as her breathing was getting worse, as she was on the boat going back, she wanted to be took to the local hydrobaric centre for emergency help. So they stuck her on oxygen, which is the right thing to do, put her on oxygen. They got her to the chamber, and the chamber said, no,
she's not bent.
This is not a decompression thing. This is what she's actually suffering with. And it just came on her, and there's this lady who's done loads of dives. You know, so the important thing was that she recognised straight away what the effects were that she was suffering. She knew what to do, and she did something about it. Yeah. And got on air as well. And that was one of the things that saved her life. Yeah,
but it's also important people recognise if it's happening to somebody else.
Yeah, so we'll share these two things. We haven't gone into too much about the whole court case. What I would say is go on the DiverNet's website, download the article. It's really well worth a read if you haven't done that, and it goes into a lot more detail. But I think, from my understanding, it sounds like the right outcome come to, and you know, our thoughts always are with the family who's involved, and the divers who are involved.
And it's a learning platform as well.
Wouldn't it be nice having those over their heads for 6 years? So,
it's a long time.
There we go. Okay, so on to happier things. So if you are in the Florida area, we have quite a few listeners who listen to us in the US of A. You've got a great dive show coming up, another one.
They're really
lucky. So you had Edema, now you've got this one in Florida on Long Beach. 11,000 people expected.
And that's happening mid-May, 14th and 15th of May.
So go to it. Let us know how it is. Send some photos. You got the back phone number. Let us know where to, you know, what it's like, and share and tell us all about it.
That'd be good.
Yeah. So, you know, it's good now. The old COVID lockdown things are sort of hopefully behind us. Everyone's getting back to dive shows.
Yeah, so it'd be great to see coverage.
Yeah, it would. So great. Right, okie dokie. Let's get on with this guest.
Yes, so her name is Aoibheann Gillespie-Mules, and she's a very positive, jolly person.
Right, okay, perfect.
Right, so here's the podcast.
So this is the Big Scooper podcast, and we have Aoibheann online. So welcome to the Big Scooper podcast.
Hello. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. So obviously all our listeners would love to know a little bit about you. So can you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So basically I grew up on the northwest coast of Donegal, of Ireland, from Derry originally, but spent a lot of summers along the Donegal coastline, which is absolutely stunning if you've ever been to it or have never been and want to take a visit. And I basically always had a love for the ocean and just fascination of marine life and everything that kind of was in the water. So I was constantly going out and like playing in the water, snorkeling as a kid. And then that kind of led me into wanting to do marine science at university, which I did in Galway in Ireland. And it was through that where I met this fantastic kind of role model, inspirational speaker that came in and talked about conservation and going out and doing volunteer work in the dive industry. And he was talking about this program in Mozambique. It was a whale shark conservation program, and that just kind of burst my bubble. And I was like, this is it. I need to do this. I need to get out. I need to get diving. I need to see all this tropical and incredible marine life out there. So myself and one of my classmates went out, and we spent a month diving. That's where I did my open water in my advanced course.
Oh, wow.
We were diving with whale sharks and mantas, giant mantas, and we were out helping in citizen science. That was kind of the key into conservation. And with like people like Andrea Marshall, the queen of mantas, and Simon Pearce, the king of kind of whale sharks. And it was just such an incredible experience.
Yeah. And in Mozambique, we've had a previous guest on, Francesca Trotman from Love the Oceans.
Yes.
And the marine life that she spoke about was just amazing.
It's absolutely mind-blowing. And to see, like, as a new diver, to see all that kind of in the first few dives, like it was that we were spoiled, and kind of set the standard for the rest of the diving career.
Yeah, that's a great place to do your open water and advanced.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, that's just absolutely awesome, isn't it? And what a start in your diving career. So have you not thought about diving beforehand, or it's just, the speaker come along and bing, that was the time?
I guess it all kind of sparked off so my sister lives in Australia, and I went out to visit her with my family when I was about 9 years old.
Yeah.
And we actually did a trip on the Great Barrier Reef. Like, I guess all kind of budding marine biologists and marine scientists, there's always that bit of a spark and kind of something that sets that person off to kind of want to take that path. And we went out on a snorkel trip, and I remember just jumping in and seeing the corals, seeing just all the tropical fish and life. And then I saw these two divers, and they were down under the water. And I was like, why can't I be there? I want to be under the water. And I was so jealous and envious. And there was this huge Napoleon wrasse that was really curious, swimming around them. And I was just like, I want to be them. And I guess that was kind of the key in all of that. And then from then on, it was like, I was just driven. I remember at school, kind of, it was always like, what do you dream of kind of being? I was like, I want to dive with sharks. That's my goal. I will make that happen.
It's amazing how something just sparks that.
Absolutely.
People know that they are going to go into the underwater world. It's incredible.
That's it, definitely.
Yeah. So after Mozambique, where did it take you then?
So then I finished my degree in Galway, and then I decided straight after, rather than carrying on to do a master's, I decided to kind of save up all through my college time and went off and did my dive master course in Bali. And it was just an incredible experience. And I was very lucky. We had two amazing mentors as our dive instructors, and the group, there was about 8 of us doing it together. And as I'm sure you're aware of, like, kind of the currents and just the type of diving that is in Bali, and you have like incredible macro life. You've got your megafauna, but you've also got all the small critters and some of the best muck diving in the world.
Yeah.
But then it was all about our instructors, and they were just incredible. It was all about buoyancy control. It was about looking, and taking it all and looking at the small things, not just the bigger things. And then obviously working with groups with those type of currents. And it was really challenging, and definitely a big eye opener in terms of your responsibility as a dive professional, and just seeing their role and how inspiring they were and how much of an impact they had in my life. And it's like I want to have that impact in someone else's life.
Yeah.
You know,
It's amazing how that swap round, rather than just being about
Absolutely.
your diving, it's actually about someone else's diving, isn't it? And
That's it.
their safety as well.
Absolutely, and especially in conditions as you would have, and kind of those type of extreme currents. It's all about kind of diver management and control, and all your safety briefings.
So did your instructors know what your future plans were?
They had no idea. And I guess I never planned to go on to be an instructor. It was kind of like just the next step. And I guess that idea of, oh, it's great, I'll, travel around the world as a dive master. And of course, once you get to that step, you kind of realize, it's always, let's take it to the next step.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of people I've seen, they qualify as a dive master, and then they go to different parts of the world, and their view always was, right, get dive master, and then go and do, train as instructor somewhere else.
That's it, exactly.
Build their career up like that experience.
And I think that's a really vital kind of part of the development, is not only to kind of develop in one area and one environment. I think it's so important to get experience in lots of different environments, because after ballet I then decided, okay, I want to move on and go elsewhere to do my my instructor course. And I had a really good connection from the dive center that I did my dive master course with in Thailand, in Phuket. And it was a woman course director called Sarah Kench, and she was seemed fantastic. And I went there, and that's where I did my instructor course.
Oh, wow. So, and then from there, how did you get in with Greenfins? Because you spent some time with them as well, haven't you?
So, yes, I actually listened to your podcast the other day with Samantha Craven. So, funny story.
One of our really early ones as well.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's number 14 or something.
It's about then.
Yeah. But basically, so when I did some experience, some work experience in Thailand as an instructor, which was fantastic. But then I decided to go home for just a period of time, just to figure out kind of what the next steps were, and kind of, okay, where do I want to be? Where do I want to live and instruct somewhere where you have you have the jungle, and you have the white sandy beaches, and you have coral reefs, and you have seagrass, and you got mangroves, and the whole package. Which is obviously very, it's such a privilege to be able to work in those environments.
Yeah.
But I found this job, and they were looking for new instructors in the Philippines, in El Nido. And back then, I don't know if you know where El Nido is, but when I started there, it was a tiny little coastal village in the Philippines, in Palawan, one of the most beautiful islands, I think, in the world. And obviously the time I spent there, it really grew, and that's where Greenfins came in. So I think it was one of my first years or second years working as an instructor there. So it was very new. And Sam came in, and we were getting Greenfins assessed. And she just was this incredible woman, really just such an inspiration. Yeah. And again, that all keyed into kind of the environmental side of things, the citizen science that I kind of got from Mozambique, and it just kind of, again, dabbled on all the things that I wanted to get involved in. And then so obviously we became Greenfins members, the dive center that I was working in. And from then I kept really good contact with Sam. And eventually I left. I spent 3 years working in the dive center in El Nido, and grew incredibly as an instructor. But it was a dive center. So you're working kind of with customers that are coming daily or spending maybe up to a week. And you still create amazing connections with them, even if you're only spending a few days. Like, I think that's one of the most rewarding things as an instructor. You get to take people for their first breaths underwater, and you show them, this incredible environment. And all of a sudden you've got this connection for life. And it's wonderful, because I'm still in really good contact with some of my previous students, which is just lovely about it. And then I wanted to get more into conservation, so that's when I was looking for not only roles in instructing at a dive center, but looking at NGOs. positions there. So I started working in Marine Conservation Philippines in Negros Oriental as volunteer coordinator and lead instructor. And that's when, again, I reconnected with Sam, and she actually trained me up as a green fins assessor.
Oh, wow.
Along with the local government there. And we went out assessing all the dive centers along Negros Oriental. And that was just so rewarding. It was amazing, like kind of the whole trip around.
Yeah.
And we always say that the diving world is so small because everybody's connected.
Small.
Yeah.
And funny, like Sam would have been connected with conservationists that I would have met and been in contact with in Tofu in Mozambique. So, and that was completely world apart, but yet it was all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the colleagues that I work with actually in Marine Conservation Philippines were also connected to Sam and Reef World and just all these different wonderful NGOs and conservationists all around. And we just all kind of came together and made these wonderful connections. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And it's such a great thing because it's such an important thing, this conservation, and you've got people so passionate about it as well.
Absolutely. And it brings up that whole thing about diving with a purpose. Like we are under, like, well, I'm not diving as much as I was previously, but like we are diving every single day. You're the eyes of the underwater kind of world. And
I think since, you know, you hear, that's a phrase we're hearing more and more, and especially as technology is coming out, you know, where things like power lenses are logging things that you see with GPS. And, you know, we had Monty Halls on, and he was talking about citizen science out in the Galapagos Islands, and it's big, you know, it's a big thing nowadays.
It's huge. It's absolutely fantastic because we did actually, we did a lot of work on turtle ID identification with another NGO called Limave in the Philippines, which was incredible. And we ID'd over, I think it was over 200 individual turtles just along one small stretch of coastline.
Oh, wow.
And that is just key into their conservation and protection. Like, what are these turtles doing? Why are they here? Are they feeding? Are they, you know, are they nesting? And it's just incredible. And that is now kind of spread out everywhere. So like your whale shark ID as well, similar, similar processes.
With whale sharks, we've spoken to the people, the Galapagos whale shark project as well. And it's just mind blowing how these, they just disappear and no one knows where they've gone.
No one knows. Absolutely. That's it. And it's funny, like coming back and relocating back to Ireland. So with the pandemic, we ended up deciding to make that move back home because I lived in the Philippines for up to 8 years at that stage. And this was last year. And then to kind of get involved in the dive industry, like I'm just starting to really kind of figure out the industry here and trying to, you know, make those connections and meet people, and it's wonderful, like, and to see all the things that are happening back here, like not only in the south of Ireland, in the north, and over in England, like in Scotland, it's incredible. And then you have Sea Search. So I just got my Sea Search Observer course done.
Nice one.
Just diving with a purpose, right?
Yeah. I'm afraid I'm going to have to pause for a second. I've got my son knocking on the windows and the doors because he's trying to get in. Sorry, family. I'm so sorry.
I'm just
1 second.
You can't hear my dog snoring, can you?
No.
Okay.
So whereabouts in Ireland are you based now?
So I'm based in Letterkenny, so northwest Donegal.
Right, okay. Are you on the coast there?
Close. So I'm working in Derry, so I'm working in environmental education in Derry, but we decided to kind of be in Letterkenny so we have access to all the nice parts of Donegal.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's just amazing. And you know, it's the diving there as well. It's just amazing.
It's been incredible because I was living down in Kerry for a few months before I came up to Donegal, just over the last year, and we got diving out in the Skelligs, and it was just amazing. And I haven't done much diving in Ireland at all, so to see the marine life here, it was just like, what?
So when did you, obviously you did quite a lot of warm water diving to start with, so It must be
mainly warm water. And then only coming back here, like I think before I relocated, I only had 2-3 dives in cold water.
Yeah.
So this past year has been a big eye opener.
Yeah. Oh, it must be amazing, and so diverse again from the warm water to the cold water, and
Big time.
seeing what's on your doorstep as well. It's just
That's it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So when did you last dive?
So my last dive was only about a month. It was a month ago, and it was this winter dive, and I met this incredible dive club down in Kerry, and when I was living down there for a few months, and they were just these warm, just lovely, kind, gentle people, and I think that's such a key especially when you're coming as an outsider or coming as a new, as much as experience as I have as a dive instructor, and the amount of dives I have, coming into a completely new environment like cold water diving, it was all very new, so I was very cautious and quite I would say probably a little bit anxious about kind of just all of these new things happening, and honestly getting into a dry suit, and that was all new.
And how did you find that transition?
I dived in a wetsuit for about 3 months, and I suffered for 3 months. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And it was so funny because I never felt fully comfortable, and I felt like my brain wasn't working and I wasn't as confident as I would have.
The cold.
It was the cold. I wasn't able to think properly. Completely brain dead. So the transition into a dry suit, I remember I was quite nervous about the first dry suit dive, and I literally, as soon as I got in and just got my balance and got control of the buoyancy, I was like, oh my God, I'm a diver. I can dive. And I just, after all that time, I'm really glad I did the wetsuit for a few months and built up that kind of resilience. But as soon as I got into the dry suit, it was a game changer.
Yeah, definitely. I know what it's like. I can't think straight in freezing cold water like that, and you're feeling uncomfortable. No way.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh well, that's really, really good. So you're diving. You do photography as well.
So I guess through all kind of my diving career, and again, this comes from wonderful mentors. And I'm not sure if you're aware of a guy called Henley Spears. He's a big photographer, but he was one of my dive master instructors in Bali, and he was big into photography as well. But he also loved the detail and the macro life. And I remember we had a lot of these extra kind of workshops, just because he was so passionate about it, and he would get us to kind of go out and critter hunt and, go out and spot as much cool things as possible. And that I guess was a key for me in terms of kind of getting more into macro photography. And I use I don't use huge setups, mainly because I can't afford it, because once you go down it's a slippery slope. So I use the Olympus TG series, and they're just fantastic little cameras.
It does get a bit competitive on the dive boat, who's got the biggest lens and things like that.
Absolutely.
It's a man's thing.
Absolutely. But these little cameras are just the best, and you can clip them off, and especially as an instructor, because obviously your main focus is on your students and so on. And obviously you shouldn't be focusing on photography when you're with your students. But it's great to have it clipped on the side if you ever need it to pull it out for anything. And that really got me into just looking for small things. And I remember us doing night dives and taking doing guided night dives in Negros Oriental at Marine Conservation Philippines, and we'd do them maybe once a week or so. And at this one dive site, it's called Malatapai, and it was just, you would see up to 8-9 species of cephalopods, and it was just incredible. All in the one dive, you see over 10 frogfish, some juveniles, some large ones, different species, and catching that, it was just incredible. But then I guess the small things and the detail led me to coral reefs, and just my fascination and the beauty and the structures of these delicate, incredible animals, and capturing that and capturing just how perfect they are and how structured they are.
And of course, it's not always about what they look like. It's also, we had Tim Lamont, got to get his name right. He was on last episode, and he was, did a lot of talking about the sounds of the reef, and that's something that we often miss when we're diving. And I think it's a really important thing to pick up on is the sounds around.
Definitely. And it's funny because I was listening to a podcast recently, and some of the shallow reefs that I'm a fanatic of kind of shallow calm reefs with the light and colors coming in. But that's where you hear like the buzz of the reef. And as Tim was saying in the podcast, like we would have done that with our students and like kind of come up, and because it's all about buoyancy control, and that is the key into all diving and safety, and especially when it comes to conservation and photography. But it's like just getting that buoyant, like that trim, and just slowing down and like really slowing down your breathing. And I was like, we never hold our breaths, as Tim was saying, but it's that pause and hearing the buzz and the clicking and the crackling. And it's like, this is a whole like ecosystem of animals communicating, and it's just mind blowing.
Yeah, and so many people think the underwater world is silent, and yet it's just like you could go into a jungle and it's just like it's happening, and
just buzzing. Yeah. Exactly. It actually reminds me of we used to do this morning dive on the US Liberty Wreck in Bali. Are you familiar with it?
No.
It's an incredible dive site. It's very shallow, but does go down deep. So it's for all levels. It's a wreck dive for all levels, basically. Right. And like even from DSDs kind of all the way down to tech divers.
Oh, wow.
But it used to be really busy, especially during high season. But we used to get up and do these morning dives, these sunrise dives at like 5 a.m. or 4:35. And the sounds, and it was all about kind of the fish kind of waking up, and the reef was coming alive with the light. And I just remember you have your bump heads coming in, and then just the crackling over, and it was incredible. So beautiful.
I guess it's like the mirror version of what, if you live in the countryside, 4 o'clock first light, you start hearing all the birds twittering, don't you? Well, it's the same thing with the reefs, I guess. The sunlight start penetrating through, and that starts waking them up.
Exactly. And it's just magic. And to be able to share that with somebody and to show somebody and like introduce that to somebody, it's such a privilege. It's just so rewarding to be able to do that. And capture it and share with. I think I always found it hard with video. Like I'm not so much of a videographer, but I was always about sharing photos with family and friends, and just this is our earth, like it's our underwater world, and it's just such a beautiful place to be in. And to
I think sometimes with with most of us on open water circuit diving, you kind of lose some of the noises, especially the finer noises, because you've got that constant sound of of your breathing and the bubbles, where I guess, for the people who are on rebreathers, they do get to hear more of the noises.
Absolutely. And you can understand, especially for photographers and so on, kind of taking that path into rebreathing. And it's definitely becoming much more popular nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. Even not for technical, it's even just for, like, I would love to have a rebreather and be at 5 meters. And just listen to everything that's going on.
Yeah, well, that, and again, that shows the shallower dives, just hold so much life, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Oh yeah. Well, Gem, think back to diving at Farnes last year. One of the last dives that we did was about 4 meters, 5 meters tops.
And it was
incredible. We had puffins, seals, we had fish. There was all the kelp
and the
swirling around, and the bright colours, and we were like, you could have done it as a snorkel, but we were literally no deeper than 4 to 5 meters.
And that's been one of the best dives, isn't it?
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. I think, since diving back here in Ireland, I think it's one of my favorite parts, coming up at the end of the dive, and you're doing your safety stops and you're coming up and you start to get all that light in and the colors and again the buzz of kind of the shallow critters running around, and it's definitely one of the best parts. And I think with the light beams coming in, and again, for a photographer, it's absolutely beautiful. And when it's clear enough and you can see the boat, even better.
Oh, you're so passionate about it.
I love it.
Yeah. So you've done a book as well, is that right? You've been involved in a book? Yeah.
So basically, again, it was kind of that time through the pandemic, and you're twiddling your thumbs, kind of waiting around, and it was obviously a very difficult time in terms of decisions. And should we stay in the Philippines? Should we go back to Ireland? And at that time we couldn't. Actually, we were stuck for a while as well, of course. So it's like, okay, got talking to a few colleagues and friends and just kind of rummaging ideas, and I think it came around. So a dear friend of mine who was also a colleague at Marine Conservation Philippines, she started up her NGO called Oceanus Conservation, focusing on blue carbon ecosystems, mainly mangroves, but kind of doing it as a whole, looking at your mangrove ecosystems, leading onto your seagrass and then onto your coral reefs. And with my fascination of corals and coral photography, we just thought we want to kind of, like, a lot of our work in Marine Conservation Philippines was working with coastal communities and working with youth groups, and we were doing sea camps, and it's all through kind of education and ocean literacy. And it's like, there's just not enough ocean literacy, in curriculum, especially in the Philippines, well, all over, like not just in the Philippines, but like here in Ireland as well. So it's like, how do we kind of, like, how can we help, get more ocean literacy and like kids more involved in ocean literacy? And then we thought, let's do a storybook. And we were coming up with all these ideas and just lovely little stories. So we're like, we also want to make it educational as well. So we're like, let's focus on coral reefs, because as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of people are unaware that they're animals, that they look like these big, pretty, colorful rocks. And until you get up close, do you see they're actually individual little animals all living in these amazing colonies. So it's like, okay, that's the first focus. Let's talk about coral reefs and what they actually are and their importance, to spread that awareness with some beautiful illustrations. So that was kind of the first in the making. And then basically it was to, if anyone wanted to donate, then they would buy a book, and that would go towards a PDF version, would go towards them. And then it would basically provide a hardback book to a local child, focusing on coastal communities. And then through that and through the donations, we were able to do lots of kind of outreach events. So we actually brought in youth groups, and they were able to kind of do storytelling with kids in different communities. And it's just wonderful. And then actually get out, into the environment and show where the reefs are. And these are children. A lot of the children that we were focused on coming from coastal communities are children of fisher community, like fisher folk. So it kind of enticed in the parents as well. And then, like, it's incredible. Same like in a lot of fishing communities, the fishers aren't actually under the sea, or they don't get a chance to see what's under. It's only what's coming up. So to be able to kind of introduce that into different people's families, to see what's actually under, and the incredibleness of it all, then hopefully that leads then to protection and creating that awareness and conservation in the future.
And just make people care for what they've.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key, right? It's all about connecting, and that leads to having passion and love for something, and then that will then lead to wanting to protect it.
No. So have you got any more books planned?
We actually have launched our second book yesterday, and we wanted to tie it in with Earth Hour tonight. And this one we've decided to kind of continue the story on. So it's by Corey, a little coral polyp, and she kind of meets this parrotfish and this turtle, and then they go on, this parrotfish and a turtle go on this adventure, and they come to a bleaching reef in the shallows on another kind of in a different area. And then they're talking to the bleaching coral polyps, like, well, why are you so white? Why are you fluorescing? What's going on? And then it's all about kind of, why are corals fluorescing? Why are they bleaching? What are the threats? And we talk a little bit about ocean acidification and kind of explain what that is as well.
Yeah.
So it's one, and then how we can kind of, I guess it's like the green fins approach. It's, we've got climate change and all these huge kind of impacts and threats that are global, but then it's all about us reducing the impacts locally to increase the resilience of coral reefs and of the marine environments. Yeah. So what can we do to reduce those small local impacts that will actually create more resilience within coral communities?
That's really timely, because right at the moment, as we're speaking, there's a bleaching event going on the Great Barrier Reef.
That's right. It's like the 4th mass bleaching event in the past few years, right? It's incredible. And the weather today, I don't know if it's like with you, but it's
yeah, it's just been incredible, and it's just such extreme. Yeah, when we were younger, we didn't have all this kind of up and down, but now we've just got this kind of heat waves and extreme weather, which is
so much more extreme weather, and it's happening all over the world, like especially with your forest fires and your massive floods, and it's definitely changing fast.
I don't know your area for diving. Have you got any reefs, any like chalk reefs, anything like that out roughly where you are, where you dive?
So I haven't actually done much diving around Donegal yet. Done a bit of snorkeling around, but when we relocated back to Ireland, we were based in Kerry, and I did a lot of diving with the Kerry Sabbatical Club there, who were incredible. And they introduced to a lot of different dive sites around the coast, and it was mainly kind of rocky shore diving. If you have, like, say you got the Skelligs, and it's just basically slabs of rock all the way down. So covered in jewel anemones, covered in dahlia anemones, and you've got your kelp forests, and it's just so much going on. You have your big lobsters and your spiny lobsters, and it's just I was really pleasantly surprised at the diving here. I guess because most of my diving has been abroad, and my whole instructor life has been abroad pretty much. So it's been a really lovely pleasure to come back.
And it's right on the doorstep. It's not far away at all.
I know, exactly. It's just right there. And
like, even when about the UK.
That's it. Yeah, it's right there. And we definitely don't utilize it enough at all. And I do think the pandemic has changed a lot of that, and people are definitely kind of getting out to the coast and kind of making them, like in Ireland, everyone is at least is maximum 2 hours from the coast. Like we're not a huge island, and we're an island. Same as the UK, we are islanders, really. So we need to utilize it.
Yeah, and we've seen that because obviously the podcast is over 2 years old, but through the pandemic, people have just been wowed about UK diving, and it's continued as well, which is just amazing. And hopefully that encourages people to take an interest in our own island and the conservation that we need to take care of it.
Absolutely. And that's what's been so wonderful, coming home and connecting with like through Instagram. I started a photography page on Instagram for Irish marine life, and it's funny, I started following lots of other divers around the UK and around Ireland, and just the community there is amazing, and the pictures and the marine life that people are capturing is just stunning. And it's like, I've missed out on this for my whole life.
Did you get a chance to go to the dive show over there? Because you had a dive show.
I did. Yeah.
What do you think?
It was fantastic. I had no idea. And again, it's just because I've been abroad for so long, and I wasn't connected to the diving street at all in Ireland, but kind of being in a room in Ireland with a huge room full of all these divers. And you had Paddy, you had SSI, you had all these technical divers, you had GUE was there, BSAC, CFT, of course. I was just like, this is Ireland. It was amazing. And just the connections
You're
And
not
that-
alone, you see.
Big
All
shout
these
out
other
to
divers.
Yeah, and like a big shout out to Alcoholics Dive Centre, which is on the North Coast, and they're just doing it's Paddy Dive Centre, and they're just doing incredible stuff with environmental education within their courses and within kind of their tours and stuff. And it's someone that I really want to connect now over the next few years and see where we can go from here, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, really good.
So cool.
Yeah. So are you pretty much kind of settled here now?
I guess so for now, I think. And I'm working for a cross-border agency, and it's based on environmental education. So it's based in Derry, but we cover a huge jurisdiction from kind of source to sea. So we're covering kind of river catchments in Lough Foyle and Carlingford Lough, all the way to the sea, all the way to the coast. So it's a whole new kind of, obviously I'm very marine focused, but it's so wonderful now to connect kind of and work with schools, work with community groups, kind of focusing on rivers and your salmon life cycles, and just that connection of the rivers to the sea. Wow. And yeah, it's been really interesting. So I'm really excited to kind of get stuck in and working with youth groups around that, and kind of start getting people more aware. Like, we want to get them out snorkeling. That's the first step. And then the second step is, okay, there are dive centers all around. There's dive clubs all around Ireland. Connect with them and, get out diving, try it.
Yeah.
We were talking to, I'm sure you won't mind us mentioning his name, Andy Rose from SSI.
Yeah.
What did he tell us at the Go Diving Show? Exactly
snorkeling.
that. Get kids into snorkeling.
Yeah, get the passion and the experience from snorkeling, and it is an experience. It's not just a case of I want to dive. You have to want to dive for a reason. And he was saying about getting them involved in, I think it was shark eggs, wasn't it? It was just yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's like those small connections. Like, you have these wonderful citizen science programs in Ireland happening, like Explore Your Shore Northern Ireland, Sea Search, of course, and it's all about kind of getting out and doing beach surveys and go to rock pulling. Part of my work in Kerry was going out with school groups. It was with the Marine Explorer Education Program from the Marine Institute, and it's this incredible program focused on ocean literacy in the classroom. Yeah. And one of the big programs of that was getting out and do like a seashore safari, and you just go rock pulling with kids, and it's just the best day ever. You're like, look at these little crabs, and this is a shore crab, this is porcelain crab, this is and the amazement, and that is the key.
Do they have anything to like tick off or anything like that?
Yeah, so they would kind of do they'd do a bit of a presentation theory beforehand, and kind of do an ID workshop when they go out. And then what was really nice is that we could then use everything that they ID'd and use that as citizen science and send that into the Irish Biodiversity Data Centre. Oh, wow. So I was like, use as little kids are becoming citizen scientists. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, and that inspiration and that responsibility that you put in them will hopefully take them further forward. So they've got that nugget now that they just want to
Exactly.
Well, once they've got a seed, you don't know where they're going to go, as you say.
That's it. It's all about planting those little seeds, definitely.
Yeah. And as we see, diving is just not diving. It takes you down so many different roads, and there are so many different options.
Absolutely.
And you never know who you're going to meet.
No.
That's the key, I think, as well. Like, on that path, it's all about those connections and who you meet, and the impact that they have on on that experience. And if they have such a strong impact and it sparks something, then that will lead you. And I guess that's how I got into photography. That's how I got into macro photography. It's how I got into conservation in the long run. And it was through meeting certain people that were these role models. And then I guess as an instructor, then, like, one of my roles at Marine Conservation Philippines was mentoring our dive masters and new instructors. And it was just the connect, and that I would spend about 2 months on their dive master training. So it's always obviously you go through the course outline through Paddy, but it was like introducing them to conservation diving and diving with a purpose. But it was all about kind of buoyancy skills and, you know, really thinking like a diver and giving them so much extra that they really kind of went away with these, like, again, like these seeds planted, and, you know, they're coming away with good, like confident, but humble awareness as a diver and an environmentally responsible diver, which was obviously the most important part of it all.
Well, that's it. You always got to be safe. So we often like to say to our guests and ask them, you know, can you think of a nugget of some, you know, what somebody can take away from hearing about your diving, your experience, you know, a little gem that somebody can take away from as something to bear in mind when they're maybe diving or thinking about diving?
I guess I think the best nugget to take away, that what I've experienced again through my dive career, is don't be afraid to reach out and don't be afraid to connect with people, because you will find so many passionate people. And as uncomfortable at times as it seems, and especially going into new environments, like coming back to Ireland, for example, just the connections that I've made over the last year have been amazing. And if I hadn't kind of, you know, reached out or sent that email or go to a dive show, for example, it's one of the best ways to network and to meet people that are passionate about what you are, like what you're passionate about. And you can meet friends for life.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes you have to go outside your comfort zone.
Definitely.
To experience that. And you don't need to be scared. You just need to do it and just, take that leap of faith. Yeah.
You don't need to be particularly deep. You don't need fancy equipment, you know, and you can, you know, enjoy what's around you, you know, and meet new friends. So that's a great sport to do.
And that definitely, it's a wonderful sport. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So based on your connections and the people that have inspired you, if you could take 3 people diving, they can be past, present, they don't need to be divers, who would you take and why?
It's a really hard question. Everyone, no. Because I'm thinking, obviously, everyone wants to say David Attenborough. Like, imagine a full face mask on David Attenborough and hearing his voice underwater for a dive. It was just with rebreathers, obviously.
Be awesome, wouldn't it?
But thinking about this, I decided, only because I copied somebody else on one of the podcasts, I'm going to put into groups. So it was going to be groups of 3 different kind of types of groups I'd like to dive in.
It sounds like it's getting complicated.
It is, because it's too much. It's too difficult. Basically, family and friends, my mom and dad, they're not divers, and they're kind of they're in their 70s now, but I would do anything to be able to take them underwater to see what we can see. They've done snorkeling before, which was amazing, but to actually take them under the surface would be
awesome.
It'd be a dream. The other group I would love to go back in the water with all the mentors and kind of inspirations that I've had in the past. So like all my previous dive instructors and role models, and all of us just kind of get back into the water together and do a dive. It would be amazing. And the last one would be getting into schools and diving with youth groups and getting those seeds planted. I think that's the key in terms of making those connections.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Really
brilliant.
Yeah.
And you'd see that fire burn, you know, start to burn within them. And that'd be awesome. Okay. Last question on that then is, we give you a billboard, and you can put anything on there that you like. It can be a picture, it can be on your photos of your lovely website. It can be a video, it can be a statement, anything you like, but it has to say a message that goes out into the world. What are you going to put on there?
I think I would have definitely an underwater kind of background video of just a beautiful shallow reef where it's sparkling and you have the crackling of all the fish and creatures in it. And it would say, connect, love, and protect. Because I think not only the connect part. It's connecting with our environment, connecting with nature that's around us, but also connecting with the people and connecting with, like, again, that's how I've kind of got to where I've got, is through connections with different people and just wonderful kind of amazing, passionate people. And then obviously with those connections, you then start loving that. So whatever it is, whether it's nature, whether it's underwater, whether it's a person, you know, like I went to the Philippines and fell in love not only with the underwater world, but that's where I met my husband. And it's all, and then that leads you then to want to protect, and you want to protect it like it's nothing else, you know, it's like the most important thing. So if we can get those connections in at the beginning, and then that will create the love and the passion for it, and hopefully lead to great conservation of our natural world.
That's really, really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's something that is completely transferable across everyone in the world. Yeah, from whatever background as well. Yeah,
that's it. And especially now, like as you mentioned, since the pandemic, you know, people are getting out in nature, and with everything going on with, you know, how it's changing and stuff, people really are making those connections and doing those little things to try and change.
It's quite exciting times, really.
It is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So if people want to find out a bit more about you, where are the best places for them to go?
I'd say on Instagram. So I've got 2 kind of photography Instagrams. So at Coral Reef Beauty, and another one at Surface Below _Ireland. And then my website is www.coralreefbeauty.com. And that's where you can find the storybooks on there as well. That would just connect you to the NGO that I've partnered with.
That'd be great. So hopefully there'll be a bit more interest in the books, and
definitely it'll be fantastic, and just to help getting ocean literacy out to coastal communities, children that might not have the materials and so on to learn about their beautiful underwater world.
Really
spread the word, spread the message.
And the enthusiasm as well is just infectious. So, and you know, getting youngsters inspired, and you know, giving them that fire and passion to connect. That's where it's all going to keep the wheels moving in divers or people interested in the underwater world.
Definitely. And I like that's been one of the amazing things come back to Ireland, seeing like the university clubs and seeing how that's changed, and how many, you know, like I keep saying youngsters, like I don't think I'm that old, but I'm definitely moving along. But just to see,
Gemma's sort of getting on a bit, aren't you, Gemma?
Oh, stop. Not at all. But yeah, just to see that passion coming out and that fire, as you said, and amongst, you know, teenagers and young adults, it's so exciting to see.
No, it's been awesome. Awesome conversation. And hopefully our listeners will be inspired by that as well, and youngsters, which is really good.
Absolutely. And if anyone in Ireland is listening, please reach out and we'll go diving.
Yay. That's the idea.
Well, we'll put the links into the show notes, so that anybody can then make a connection with you going forward, or drop you an email or a DM.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. It was so lovely to meet you.
No, thank you for coming on and sharing this with us. That's been brilliant.
Never know, one day might get a dive together.
Amazing. Well, if you're ever in Ireland, give me a call.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that one. Thank you very much for Ethan for coming on and
she's lovely.
Brightening up our evening, really.
She was a lot of fun. And we'll keep in contact with her and watch her rest of her scuba journey, and if there's any more books.
So that was really good, and we love having people who are of great positive, got bright smile coming on the podcast. It always makes it a great fun show.
Definitely inspiring.
Brilliant. So look out for her, and we've given you details of where to go to follow her. Okay. We just quickly mentioned about Paddy, what Paddy and Sea Legacy are up to.
Yes.
So they've they're basically joined together. They have raised a petition. They want to add pressure onto the world leaders to protect 30% of the world oceans, which, we don't even protect 5%.
No, it's quite an important thing.
So it's a really big ask, and you only got to look at at COP26, trying to get leaders around the table to agree to look after our planet, and what a job that is. So I think asking for 30% is a lot more. You've got more chance of getting leaders to agree to 30%.
Yeah.
And then saying to them, we're going to look after all of the ocean.
And every little helps.
It does. As much as it would be great to look after all of the ocean, you've got to be realistic as well, haven't we? And if we can get 30%, well, you can always increase it to 40%.
Exactly.
Can't you? So we'll give details of where you can go to this petition, get involved, get your names on there, and then let's add pressure to these leaders and get them to do something.
Yeah, and it'd be great to watch the progress as well.
So we all know where to go to for Paddy. There'll be a link on Sea Legacy where you can go to follow them, to keep up to date with what they're up to. And also there'll be links in the show notes to where you can sign this petition.
Yes. So everybody sign up.
Yeah, well done Sea Legacy, well done to Paddy.
That's great.
We like your work. Right.
It's all collaborations.
It certainly is. It's certainly talking about collaborations. So we've got a little bit of news on the old scuba and podcasting. We've got
scubaing.
Well, we have, haven't we? We've joined up with some great companies so far since we started this. You've got to think about Fourth Element, O3, Paralins, Ford, the Reef World Foundation, Greenfins,
Apex, Shearwater,
Mares. They're brilliant, and we love you all dearly. And now we've teamed up with another great company called McConks.com.
Yeah, McConks.com.
Who make fantastic paddleboards.
Yes, yeah. So we're now in possession of an Explorer 11.4.
So we've been supplied with this paddleboard.
Yep.
It's a great one. And we've also got a camera, Olympus TG6 Tough camera.
Yep, so we get that in the water soon as well.
Supplied by OM Digital Solutions. Hello to Mark Thakara.
Thakara.
I'm going to get his name right.
Anyway, he knows who he means.
But we also thank you. We love working with these companies.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
We look forward to sharing more.
Yes, keep an eye on the social media front, and you can see pictures of the McConks paddleboard and the camera.
Because you sold your last one, didn't you? Last paddleboard, didn't you? So it'd be good to let us know.
Make a comparison. And hopefully we'll get you out in the water and you can give it a go.
Yeah, I am a bit of a kayak. I've always been a bit of a kayaker, but I'm looking forward to getting on my paddleboard again because it's so much easier. You can just put it in your boot of your car.
They're inflatable paddleboards as well.
And especially for like a quick trip, they're a no-brainer really. I do like the paddleboarding, so look forward to that. And got a drone.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Our second drone, because our first drone.
It was a bit iffy.
It was a bit iffy. It started off really well, but it would get to like 60% battery charge and then die death.
Yeah, we had some near misses.
Which over the water was not particularly helpful.
No, so you've upgraded and
we've upgraded. Yeah, we've got a DJI Maverick Pro. I think it is. So so looking forward to getting that involved with some next time we got. Maybe something with Ford or whoever. Yeah,
just adds another dimension to the social media that we can do and videos.
Supplied by DJI, so look forward to that.
Yeah, so we're quite well equipped.
Yeah, slowly building up the equipment, which is good. Do it bit by bit, don't we?
Yeah.
As you do. Next episode then, we have got something a bit different for you.
His name is Chef Anton.
He is. Now, the name Chef, you might think, well, they could be cooking on this show or something. No, we're not. So, Chef Anton, he's a magician.
He's a scuba magician, an underwater magician.
A scuba magician.
Well, he does tricks above the water
He
as
does.
well. But yeah.
So let me tell you about Chef Anton. He's a master at cards, master at pool, master at magic. He performs magic in I think it's the Magic Castle in Las Vegas, I think it's called. He's been on Fool Us on American prime time for Penn and Teller. I don't think he managed to fool Penn and Teller, but yeah, he's been on their show, and he is a master at sleight of hand.
He certainly is. He does he did a trick with
And
us,
he's
didn't
a
he?
great guy to talk to. Very fun, and we've got some tricks to practice as well.
Yes, yeah, he's shown us how to do
And
something.
he teaches people a few card tricks, so when they're doing a safety stop, to take their mind off what they're doing, and he'll show them a few tricks.
Yeah, but they've all got a element of diving with them, so it's to help buoyancy, and everything that they use is recyclable.
It's very clever.
Yeah.
Very clever. So tune in next week to hear that one.
Yes, and we need to...
How often do you get to hear from a scuba magician?
Well, the two don't normally go together.
I don't think there's any other scuba magicians in the UK.
Yeah. No, I think he's trying to recruit some instructors, isn't he? So that this
so if
speciality...
you're an instructor who's listening and you got an interest in magic, you need to listen to the next week's episode.
Yeah, and make some contact with Chef Anton.
Yeah, there we go. We like to get some different views on diving for you. Don't say we haven't brought something fun for you.
Yeah, so that's a good one. So I think that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. Okie dokie. That's it for now. Don't forget to follow us on the usual platforms if you're not following us already. Please, we do need some reviews.
Yes, it'd be great to have some. And yeah, if you can...
It's free. If you're listening on iTunes or iPad or wherever, just leave us a review. It helps other people, helps your fellow divers find us.
Yeah, and we'll give you a shout out on the show.
We always do. So we always do. So do that and let us know. Let us know if you're diving and where you're diving. It's always good to hear from our fellow divers. And apart from that,
have a good week.
And have a good Easter.
Exactly. Get in the water.
Right. See you later. See you next week. Now that does wrap up today's episode of the Big Scuba Podcast. But if you want to hear more from the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button depending on what platform you are listening on. That way you will never miss an episode from us. But if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and did enjoy what you heard today, we would really appreciate it if you head to the show page to leave a 5-star rating and review. It really does help us. If you do, please take a screenshot of that review and send it to us on Instagram, and we'll give you a shout out to say a big thank you. If you have any questions for us or anything that has been mentioned in today's episode, be sure to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms or send us an email. The links are in the show notes. We will get back to you no matter what. If you have made it to this point in the episode, we both want to say a big thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.